Hi there, I'm Stephen Leptak, editor of The Drum, and this is the latest in our interview series as part of The Drum's Digital Transformation Festival, which will be running until the end of April. And in this discussion, we're going to be talking about the potential of the cashless society and what that can mean for marketers as well, and what we can expect to see happening in society around the use of digital finance. So I am joined by two excellent contributors. Could I ask you both to introduce yourself? Sarah, could you start first?
Yes, of course. Hello, I'm Sarah Davis. I'm a partner in You and Mr. Jones, the brand tech group. And I also run the consultancy at the heart of the group, the strategic and creative consultancy. And we help clients with their business transformation and challenges and innovation.
And Pete.
Hi, good morning. I'm Pete Markey. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for TSB Bank. Great to be with you.
So I'll begin by asking the big question then. Do you foresee us ever not having physical currency? Is it likely that money will all become digital one day? How do you view that? Pete, I'll start with yourself.
It's a great question, Stephen. I mean, I think at the moment there are sections of society that still need to use cash. If I look at the elderly, and there are some small businesses that still use cash a lot in their everyday lives. And if you look at the amount of money just coming across, say, post office counters every day for cash, there's a lot of cash still in the country that's needed to keep businesses and keep some people's lives moving on a regular basis. That being said, as we've seen in the last few years, a lot of our transactions have moved to non-cash. Even the taxis in London now, things like the tube, everything's moved to more of a contactless and a non-cash based way of working. So over time, I think we will see more movement towards less cash. But I think we'd be wrong to think we're going to get there, in my view, in a great hurry. It may take a few years for that to work through. The current challenges we're facing as a country may just accelerate some of that. And I think the government are already playing quite a key role in that too. If I look at when I was running marketing at the post office a few years ago, a lot of services, the post office, I think, is quite central to this. A lot of services that used to be quite cash-based through the post office have now gone digital through gov.co.uk. So the government themselves have done, I think, a lot to move that forward. So look, I don't say never, but as it stands today, there are sections of society quite dependent still on cash.
Sarah.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with Pete, actually, that there are parts of society where obviously the digital transformation into a cashless world will become incredibly easy and something that's very natural to do. But I think cash means something to quite a lot of people. Just when I was thinking about this, particularly the way in which children learn, learning about money makes maths fun. Playing shops, all of that kind of stuff, it's sort of ingrained with us, and it's the way in which we kind of learn from a young age. And even though now there's tools that allow kids to save and have their own card from a young age, they still like that physical, tactile nature of money. And then I think the other point, which I absolutely believe in, is for so many vulnerable people all over the world, cash is still incredibly important, and it's the way in which they operate in so many different ways. And even in societies where services have come in to make digital payments super easy. I mean, if you look at something like M-Pesa in Kenya that's been around for over a decade, still 9 out of 10 payments are cash, even in a world where that's hugely adopted. So I think, yes, for a lot of people in society will become more cashless, but it will still play such an important role in so many vulnerable people's lives.
And I mean, obviously this will generate, the digital transactions will obviously give marketers an awful lot more data to help them understand how cash is being used. But what other opportunities have you seen being afforded by this move to online currency? Pete, can I ask you that first?
Yeah, of course you can. No, I think, look, I think, more data to help your customers is never a bad thing. And I think we're seeing already, some of the banks now look at people's spending patterns and recommend their next utility provider, for example, or are able to work through the next best product to offer them based on transactional data. So I think the more data that's available used in the right way actually can be really helpful to customers, can really make sure that they're offered the right products and services at the right time. It's sort of that dream combination for marketers and customers coming together, where it should be right product, right time, right situation. So digitalization definitely, I think, gives you that. I think the other bit is also there's a fusion here, isn't there, of kind of financial services entities understanding and a customer's understanding. And I think, more than ever now, and I think given the challenges the UK is facing right now, money confidence is going to be a really important theme, or growing need for money confidence. And it was touched on a moment ago, I think, very well, about the need for children education. And I think more than ever, that's going to be increasingly important. And digital tools, we know, can do that. So, I might not personally be good at looking across my finances and predicting my spend patterns or where I spend, overspend or underspend. And I think the use of data to help people in an educational way and a helpful way, not in a preachy way, but helpful way, to manage finances, to see where money's going, to see where things could be used better or differently, I think is only helpful. And I think, again, if that's used in education, both can be used for kids learning about managing money or finance, through to people like us today in society, helping us get on top of our finances better. It's spooky, isn't it? But I bet many of us have forgotten the number of direct debits we've got and who they're all going out to, and whether we're still using those services. And just simple things that I think, some tools and technology becomes really helpful to, as I say, help people in their day-to-day.
Sarah, what are your views?
Yeah, I think the tools and transparency piece here is just super important. Like anything around people's data, but particularly people's data in association with money, is going to come under huge amounts of scrutiny. We did some work last year with what Facebook's been doing in this space with Libra and Calibra, which is obviously an incredibly interesting / controversial topic. And I just think that, if this is done in such a way that it is helping people and it is being transparent and the communication there is completely feels at the benefit of the customer rather than the institution, then I think it has huge amounts of use in society. I just think that the moment that is breached in some way, that, it becomes very clear very quickly to people that the gain is for, the bank or the financial institution rather than them, then the whole thing will snowball really, really quickly, and the distrust will happen. And it's all about, particularly with money, trust, and particularly with data, trust. So when you bring those two things together, I think transparency is absolutely the most important thing to think about.
Yeah, trust is obviously a massive issue that we need to cover here, in terms of how much of that is a marketer's problem to try and overcome as well. So we're seeing new online-only banks appear recently, such as Monzo, and how did they build trust? Whereas the older, more traditional high street banks and financial brands, how do they compete, and where does trust factor into the marketing messages that both put out? Do you have a view on that, Sarah?
Yeah, and you mentioned Monzo there, which I think is just really interesting for a moment to think about that, because, I think what they've done as a business is really, really interesting, and the way that they've disrupted the banking sector is really interesting, and the people that founded it are fantastic. But in essence, they made a really amazing, shocking pink card, and everybody wanted one, and actually difference in the banking sector was not there. So actually it was from a consumer perspective, from real human need perspective, none of those pain points were being answered. None of the kind of fun or playfulness existed in that space. So actually, as an industry, from an innovation perspective, it was incredibly easy to disrupt. And I think that, some of the big banks have really tried to help or to learn from that and to disrupt their own businesses. But it's very difficult when you're already existing in a space to create large amounts of disruption and really change things. And I think when you're a new startup, a player like Monzo, and you can go to market with a completely clean new proposition that's not hounded by your legacy business, it's a lot easier for marketers. But I do think that there are lots of things that still to be learned from those players. that the big banks, really can learn to disrupt their own business, really.
Yeah, Pete, can I ask how much, I mean, everything you do probably at TSB must involve trying to drive trust for the consumer. How much do you think about that every day? And then what do you think about when you see these new players trying to disrupt and try to invade your space?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think trust is really important, and actually playing a meaningful role in people's lives today in a helpful way. We know confidence with money leads to confidence in life. So I think as a bank looking to be different and provide a point of difference to people in the UK, our role is increasingly to give people confidence in the way they manage and look after their money, that we know leads to greater confidence in the way they're able to step out and live their lives. And perhaps now so more than ever. And look, competition, I've been in a number of sectors. I've worked in utilities, I've worked in mobile phone industry. And actually, competition is never a bad thing. Disruption isn't bad on behalf of the customer, because it means the sector and the industry moves on and innovates to make things better and better for customers. So a constant part of our dialogue of business is how do we keep innovating and making things better and better for our customers, but do it in a way that delivers our brand promise. What I'm not a fan of is businesses that chase after the fastest app for the sake of the app. I think, actually what you've got to do is make sure that you're delivering technology and experience that fits with your brand and is needed by your customers and your target audience. And for us as a brand, we believe that the technology is really key, but physical presence still really matters. We have whole chunks of our customer base who actually going to a branch, meeting people, sorting out a mortgage or your payments or your overall financial transactions or questions you've got through one of our TSB partners in branch is still seen as really important. So our role is to be consistent, deliver our promise in a way that's relevant for our target market today through technology and through face-to-face. And innovation is great. And I really like the point from Sarah, disruption. I think established brands shouldn't be afraid to create a level of disruption within their own business. And certainly in my last role at Aviva, I worked in a disruption hub whose sole purpose was in doing that and providing the right level of technology, infrastructure and disruption to drive that business forwards. And I think that in financial services, as Sarah said very well, is absolutely critical.
Sure. And right now we're as is the whole world, experiencing the coronavirus pandemic, so we're all staying home. But we're also being told continually, wash your hands. Pete, are you going to have to come up with some sort of campaign or start trying to reintroduce trust in physical currency? And do you think that's going to be dented even in the short term?
Yeah, I think for us at the moment, we're taking every precaution to support our customers and partners in branches around hygiene. And I think we've just got to continue to watch how consumer perceptions adjust over time over the coming weeks. And our priority at the moment is keeping as many branches open as possible to help our customers. And that's an evolving position that we're just going to have to keep monitoring and seeing where things are progressing over the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm. And things like cryptocurrency, what do you see as the potential for those? It's been around for a while now, and I think when we talk about trust, people are just uncertain about it, I guess. Sarah, do you have views on just how important cryptocurrency might be?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to cryptocurrency. I mean, even the name itself, cryptocurrency, sounds pretty scary. It's sort of in that phishing and malware sort of sciencey tech speak. So I think there's actually a lot to be done by trusted brands and the industry to handhold people into a cryptocurrency world. And we've seen that with a lot of new technologies. It's actually when the trusted providers, when the BBC first brought out iPlayer, they handheld people into a world of streaming that, people like my mom found really, really easy to follow. And I just think that hasn't happened in the world of crypto yet. I think that the project that, Facebook were in with Libra and Calibra was really interesting from lots of different directions, because there was a brand that had a really good reason for creating cross-border remittances at a cost that wasn't prohibitive for anyone, so it was going to do good in the world, and it was a big enough brand to handhold people into that space. I mean, obviously, there's all the questions around data with Facebook that brings up, but I just think that that's what's been missing with this new technology. It's still something that tech geeks get, and there's nothing mainstream about it yet. And as with all things, we're going to need something that kicks it on a bit, that nudges it into society, that means that it's something useful for the average person to get involved in and use really seamlessly and easily.
Yeah. Pete, are you a big investor in crypto then? What's your views?
I'm going to be slightly boring and really agree with Sarah here. I think there's a way to go yet before there's enough consumer confidence in crypto for it to be, I guess, something of serious size or magnitude. So it's a bit of a watch this space one, I think, for me.
Yeah, surely it's an area that probably needs marketing more than anything so that people understand it better.
Yeah, completely. I think it's like all these things, isn't it? And the example given earlier on iPlay is a good one. It's sort of, I think with anything new where there's there's quite a lot to unpackage and explain, that it's, as you say, a great job for marketers to step in and show points of difference.
So I'll finish off by asking you a bit of an open question around what is it that excites you most that's coming into this space that you've seen that you think will really help marketers in this space understand their customers a lot better. So what's coming down the line? Pete, could ask you first of all.
Yeah, I think some of it we've touched on through this conversation. I think for me, the opportunities that getting close to customers and understand their lives better through using data more smartly, I think are really interesting. And I think I look at some of the data platforms now that allow you greater connection with customers and allow you to be more timely and more responsive and more relevant, I think are really interesting. I think innovations like open banking are really interesting as well, around how customers will be given more opportunity to bring more accounts together on one platform and be able to have a dashboard and a greater view across finances. So I think it's a really interesting time to work in financial services. There's a lot of opportunity to better connect with customers, and I think importantly play a real point of difference in helping them in their lives, and not just blend into the pack of financial services providers, but really be different, really stand out on behalf of your customers more than ever.
Sure. Sarah?
Yeah, and I'll just build on that. I think you're absolutely right. It's all about people, really. It's all about giving them the most useful tools. And I think, back to what we were talking about earlier, if you can help the most vulnerable people in society with really easy to use payment tools and savings opportunities that technology is bringing, then that's what's really exciting. And just to kind of finish off, I think one of the most interesting things, was the stuff that is happening for kids in this space. So I talked at the beginning about how kids learn with physical money, but also, the Go Henry cards that have launched, my kids absolutely love, and they're really learning about saving from that in a really fun and engaging way. So for kids, that's about fun. I think for small businesses, it's about frictionless payments. And I think for the most vulnerable people in society, it's about making sure that they're just not being ripped off. And I think if we can use technology and innovation and all these fantastic things that are coming out to do one or all of those things, then, as Pete said, this is a really interesting space, financial services, to completely help people and disrupt what has been for many years.
Sure, and ever-evolving space as well. So a perfect example of digital transformation always at work, I guess. Thank you both for joining me to have this discussion, and thank you to our viewers for watching us have this discussion. Please stay tuned to The Drum. We will have plenty more content coming down the line as we continue to look at digital transformation and what it means for marketers through until the end of April.